investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie?
For Nancy Guthrie, I have heard people make claims that even when a phone is turned off, it still pings towers, which is not true.
In the search for Nancy Guthrie, straight out to Crime Stories, investigative reporter.
The quiet desert community of Catalina Foothills near Tucson, Arizona, was not the kind of place people associated with crime. It was known for its peaceful streets, scenic views, and a sense of safety that residents had trusted for years. But that sense of calm was suddenly broken when Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman, vanished from her home under deeply troubling circumstances. Nancy had lived independently despite her age, maintaining a routine that brought her comfort and stability. To those who knew her, she was strong, private, and closely connected to her family. There was nothing unusual about the evening she was last seen. After spending time with loved ones, she returned home, and everything appeared normal. But by the next morning, something was clearly wrong. Nancy failed to answer calls and did not show up for a planned activity, something that immediately raised concern among her family. When they went to check on her, they were met with a situation that felt unsettling from the moment they arrived. Nancy was gone, and there were no clear signs that she had left on her own. Authorities were contacted, and what began as a missing person case quickly turned into something far more serious. Early observations inside the home suggested that her disappearance may not have been voluntary. Investigators started to consider the possibility that a crime had taken place during the night. As news of the case began to spread, many people across the country started following the story closely. If you're interested in real investigations like this, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of this case. Because what investigators would soon uncover inside the home would raise even more questions about what truly happened that night.
Investigation. This afternoon, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says that the only video that we have seen that the FBI shared with us of that man at Nancy Guthrie's front door is the only usable and video that the engineers over at Google have been able to recover. There are additional cameras here from her property. One we saw getting plucked from the rooftop by FBI agents on Friday the 6th. They are still working to try to see if there's any usable video. They are hopeful that the very smart engineers over at Google will be able to help them do that and extract video that they can share with the public and hopefully help them churn up additional leads. They have not ruled out that the person that you saw in that doorbell video didn't work without an accomplice. So they believe that this person may have also had a second individual who ended up snatching Nancy in the middle of the night. Another big name that law enforcement are working with is Walmart. They are trying to identify the man in that video by what he had. We know that the backpack, that black Ozark Trail hiker backpack, is sold exclusively at the retail giant. Authorities say that the company has turned over purchase records with names, and so detectives are right now cross-referencing dates, stores, and transactions. FBI agents are also...
Detectives often start with the victim's inner circle, carefully reviewing relationships, recent interactions, and anything that might reveal hidden tensions or concerns. Even in cases where everything appears normal, small details can sometimes point in unexpected directions. As officers spoke with family members and those who knew Nancy, they worked to build a clearer picture of her final days. They wanted to know if anything had changed, if there were any unusual events, or if anyone had noticed something that didn't quite fit her usual routine. As this investigation unfolded, more people began paying attention to the case. If you're following along and want to stay updated on stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because while Nancy's life appeared peaceful on the surface, investigators were about to uncover details that would make this case far more complex than anyone first imagined. The final confirmed hours of Nancy Guthrie began like any other ordinary evening, with nothing to suggest that something was about to go terribly wrong. After spending time with family, she returned to her home in the Catalina Foothills area near Tucson at approximately 9:50 p.m. It was a quiet night, and everything appeared completely normal as she went inside. No signs of distress were reported, and no one suspected that this would be the last confirmed moment she was seen. But sometime after that, the timeline becomes unclear.
Good morning. I hope you've been kind of informed of the rules. That I'm going to try to get as many, if not all of you, an opportunity to ask a question. But last time we tried this, it was just kind of chaotic, people yelling. So I'd ask that you just kind of be patient with me, pay attention to the questions asked, because sometimes you guys want to ask the same question twice, and you're going to get the same answer. So help yourself, get what you can out of this. I'm going to give you one question and a follow-up, okay? But before we get there, I do have some comments. First of all, I want to begin by offering our condolences to our partners at the state Department of Public Safety's tragically lost 2 members last night in a helicopter crash up in northern Arizona. So if you would keep them in your prayers, Colonel Glover and his team, I'm sure, would have greatly appreciated it. Along the same lines, I think you all saw last night, I'm trying to speak up, not yell, because apparently I talk soft.
If you're interested in true crime cases like this, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because as investigators arrived at the scene, the evidence they would soon discover inside the home would point toward something far more disturbing than anyone had expected. When investigators entered the home of Nancy Guthrie, the atmosphere immediately suggested that something was not right. What had begun as a welfare check quickly shifted into a potential crime scene as detectives and forensic teams started documenting every detail. In cases like this, the condition of the environment can reveal what words and witnesses sometimes cannot. At first glance, the house appeared mostly undisturbed. Furniture remained in place, and there were no obvious signs of a struggle throughout the entire home. However, investigators quickly noticed that Nancy's personal belongings, including items she would normally carry with her, were still inside. Her phone had not been taken, and there was no indication that she had prepared to leave. This raised an important question. If she didn't leave willingly, what had happened inside those walls? Then came the detail that would change the direction of the investigation. Near the entrance of the home, investigators discovered what appeared to be traces of blood. While not excessive, it was enough to suggest that an injury may have occurred in that area. The discovery immediately heightened concerns that Nancy had been confronted and possibly forced out of the house against her will. The area was secured, photographed, and carefully processed as part of the forensic examination. Detectives began focusing on entry points, examining doors and windows to determine whether someone had gained access to the home during the night. At the same time, they started canvassing the neighborhood, asking residents if they had seen or heard anything unusual. As news of the case spread, public interest continued to grow. If you're following this investigation and want to stay updated, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Because while the evidence inside the home raised serious concerns, what investigators would soon uncover from nearby surveillance footage would introduce an even more unsettling possibility. As investigators worked to understand what happened to Nancy Guthrie, their focus shifted toward one of the most critical tools in modern investigation: surveillance footage. In a quiet neighborhood like Catalina Foothills, cameras are often installed for security, and detectives hoped that somewhere in the surrounding area, something had been captured during the night Nancy disappeared. Officers began collecting video recordings from nearby homes, doorbell cameras, and any available security systems. Hours of footage were reviewed carefully, often frame by frame, as investigators searched for anything unusual. For a while, the recordings showed nothing more than the stillness of the night, with empty streets and no visible activity. Then something stood out. A figure was seen moving near Nancy's property during the time frame investigators believed the incident occurred. The individual appeared dressed in dark clothing, with their face obscured, making identification nearly impossible. What drew even more attention was the person's behavior. The movement seemed cautious, deliberate, as though they were aware of the presence of cameras. In a particularly concerning detail, investigators believe the individual may have approached the entrance of the home and possibly interfered with a doorbell camera. If true, it suggested a level of planning and awareness that raised serious questions. This was no longer a situation that appeared random. It was beginning to look intentional. While the footage did not provide a clear identity, it reinforced the theory that Nancy's disappearance involved an unknown individual entering or approaching the property under suspicious circumstances. As more people began following the case, interest continued to grow. If you're invested in uncovering the truth behind stories like this, take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Because as investigators continued analyzing the footage, the case was about to take another major turn with the involvement of federal authorities. And as the case surrounding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie grew more complex, local authorities made the decision to bring in additional support. What had started as a missing person investigation had now developed into a suspected abduction, and the scale of the situation demanded more resources. Soon, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation joined the case, signaling a major escalation in the effort to find answers. With federal involvement, the investigation expanded rapidly. Advanced forensic tools were used to re-examine the evidence collected from Nancy's home, while analysts worked to enhance the surveillance footage that had captured the unidentified figure. Every detail was reviewed again, this time with additional expertise and technology that could uncover clues previously missed. Search efforts also intensified. Teams were deployed across the surrounding desert terrain, using drones, helicopters, and trained search dogs to cover as much ground as possible. The harsh landscape made the process challenging, but investigators remained focused on finding any trace that could lead them to Nancy or the person responsible. At the same time, detectives began widening the scope of their inquiry. They examined phone records, financial activity, and any recent communications connected to Nancy. In cases like this, understanding who had contact with the victim in the days leading up to the disappearance can be critical. Investigators also continued speaking with family members, neighbors, and anyone who might have noticed unusual behavior. Public awareness of the case continued to grow, and tips began coming in from different sources. Each one had to be carefully evaluated, as even a small piece of information could prove significant. If you're following this investigation and want to stay updated as new developments unfold, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel.
Missing in Arizona.
She hasn't been seen or heard from. Concern is growing, and all indications are that she was kidnapped.
For now, that security video seems to be the strongest piece of evidence in this case, though there is still hope in the DNA.
We need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
On January 31st, when the sun set in the Catalina Foothills of Tucson, Arizona, no one suspected that the quiet neighborhood would soon become the epicenter of a frantic international search for the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, a search that has gripped the nation. It's been more than a month since Nancy Guthrie vanished without a trace in the early hours of February 1st. Investigators say she was abducted from her home, and so far no suspects nor clear leads have been identified. Right now, the FBI is looking into
the case. Investigators carefully sorted through each tip, separating verified information from rumors. In high-profile cases like this, misinformation can easily spread, making it even more important to focus on evidence. Nancy's family continued to appeal to the public, asking anyone with information to come forward. Their hope remained that someone, somewhere, might have noticed a detail that could help bring clarity to the situation. The emotional toll was evident, as uncertainty replaced the sense of normalcy they once knew. As more viewers followed the case, discussions and theories began circulating widely. If you've been following this investigation, take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the final part of this story. Because while the search continued, investigators were beginning to narrow their focus, working toward answers that could finally explain what happened on the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. As the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie continued, authorities faced the difficult reality that not every case is solved quickly. Despite the extensive search efforts, the involvement of multiple agencies, and the growing number of tips from the public, the most important answers still remained just out of reach. What investigators did know, however, was that the evidence pointed toward a deliberate act, one that had been carried out under the cover of darkness. Detectives remained focused on the unidentified figure seen in the surveillance footage, believing that this individual could hold the key to understanding what truly happened that night. Analysts continued enhancing video recordings, cross-referencing them with traffic data and nearby camera systems in an effort to trace any movement connected to the suspect. Each frame of footage was treated as a potential clue. Meanwhile, Nancy's family continued to speak out, urging anyone with information to come forward. Their message was simple but urgent. Someone, somewhere, might know something that could help bring answers. For them, the search was not just about solving a case, but about finding closure and understanding the truth behind her disappearance. The community that once felt untouched by serious crime now found itself united by concern and uncertainty. Residents became more aware, more cautious, and more connected as they followed updates on the investigation. If you've stayed with this story from beginning to end, take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real true crime documentaries like this. Because while this chapter closes without a final resolution, the investigation is far from over. Authorities remain committed to following every lead, examining every piece of evidence, and pursuing the truth, until the mystery surrounding Nancy Guthrie is finally uncovered.